Oh yeah, so Michael, big news that came out today.
More like big snooze.
Well, you say that, but it's actually not. It's actually quite interesting.
More like
officially
resting.
What?
In like resting because you're sleeping, so you're resting.
Robert Pattinson is the new Batman. In the movie The Batman.
Hold on a minute, Luke. I'm confused. I'd heard this knocking around for a while. So you're saying that it just been made official?
It's hashtag confirmed.
Okay, it's hashtag confirmed as opposed to hashtag cancelled.
Yeah, now hashtag confirmed is just a football transfer Twitter thing. But yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, got you.
So yeah, that's it. It's done. Robert Pattinson, the guy who has only been in Twilight. That's the only movie he's ever been in.
Yes, exactly.
Is now Batman.
Oh, man, look, I think you're being unfair. He was also Cedric Diggory in Goblet of Fire. Then he went straight to Twilight, and then he didn't do anything for 7 years, and now he's Batman.
Yes.
So, and it's outrageous because he's not shown that he can play Batman, and also he's English.
Yes, it's not like we've had a previous Batman who was British.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
I think he'll do well. Like, here's the thing. Nobody thought Ben Affleck was going to do good. He did well. And nobody thinks Robert Pattinson's going to do well, but the reaction I've seen is like, what? That guy from Twilight?
Yeah.
Playing Batman?
So like Heath Ledger's two biggest films, I swear. Okay, no, he had Brokeback Mountain. So his three biggest films were Brokeback Mountain, 10 Things I Hate About You, and A Knight's Tale. And you think, like, none of those films are like, I mean, they're all kind of vaguely romantic. Obviously, some of them are rom-coms, some of them are rom-dramas, but, and I guess you could say, so there's an established thing of these people who all they did is do these lovey-dovey, whether it's, vampires or gay cowboys, and then that kind of sets them up to move into a Batman thing. What I think is kind of surprising is that the studios, they love their old Batman.
Well, he's only like 33. He's not that young.
Yeah, okay, yeah, he's not that young.
Anyway, no, yeah, I look forward to seeing it. I think he'll be good. Yeah.
Yeah, DC. So let's just hope. Hello and welcome to Select and Reflect, the movie review podcast where we look at films that have come out relatively recently at the cinema and see if they still hold up upon a second watch. I am your host, Michael, and I'm joined as always by my co-host, Luke. And this week, we are looking at the film Logan to celebrate the release of... Is it Dark Phoenix that we're doing?
Yes, X-Men Dark Phoenix.
Yes, X-Men Dark Phoenix. So, Luke, why don't you tell us a thing or two about Logan Paul?
I was thinking when we were doing this, there's going to be a Logan Paul joke.
There we go, yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
Live to please.
Where was y'all at when I was on the email? Oh, no, shit, that's Jake Paul. My bad. No, yeah, Logan Paul's the one that went to Japan.
I know you're a Jake Pauler, but we're talking about the Logang here.
Yeah, he's the one that went to Japan and filmed that kid in a suicide forest. Actually, no, it wasn't a kid.
It was a grown man, dude. Yeah. Come on, let's be fair.
Being too harsh on the kid. So anyway, Logan, just Logan, is a 2017 American superhero film starring Hugh Jackson as the X-Men character Wolverine. It's the 10th installment in the X-Men film series, as well as the final installment in the Wolverine trilogy after X-Men Oranges.
X-Men Oranges.
Oh, God.
Funny.
X-Men Origins, Wolverine, 2009, and The Wolverine, 2013. It was directed by James Mangold, stars Hugh Jackman, Patrick Stewart, Richard E. Grant, Boyd Holbrook, Stephen Merchant, and Daphne Keane, and it's based on Wolverine by Roy Thomas, Len Wein, and John Romito Sr. It was released on March 3rd, 2017 in the United States. And Michael, do you want to have a guess at the budget?
Not too much. I feel like this film, it felt kind of like in a good way. It felt cheap. Like it felt like small scale. It didn't feel bombastic. But at the same time, it is a superhero film. So I'm going to weigh these two against each other and say 75 million.
97 to 127.
Okay.
So imagine 97 million and 30 million for marketing.
Yes, yeah, that would make sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, box office. How much did it make?
I actually don't know if this film made that much because I think it was very critically received, but that doesn't necessarily translate to making lots of money. I'm gonna guess 340 million. 340 million.
619.
How is everyone?
Never
Just-
underestimate Wolverine
I
and
know,
Hugh
yeah.
Jack. Never
Yeah.
underestimate.
That's crazy. I mean, I was thinking, it's an R-rated film and it's not got any epic superhero fights in it, really, or not any massive CGI superhero fights. But no, yeah, okay. Well done, this film.
Well done to this film indeed. I'll just give a quick summary of the plot. So the film, which by the way takes inspiration from Old Man Logan by Mark Miller and Stephen McNiven, is based in an alternate bleak future, and it follows an alternate universe in which an aged Wolverine and an extremely ill Charles Xavier defend a young mutant named Laura from the villainous Reavers and Alkali Transigen, led by Donald Gleason
Alkali,
and Xander Rice,
I mean,
respectively.
I think it would be more appropriate if they were trying to defend a group of children from R. Kelly.
Okay, so Michael, did you like Logan?
I liked Logan. Did you like Logan?
I like Logan.
We both liked Logan. But no matter how much we like something, Luke, we always have nitpicks. How many nitpicks do you have?
I don't know, actually. How many do you have?
I have quite a few. Let me just... Okay. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and the 8th one's like... The eighth one is like the one I stand by least, but I'm going to bring it up anyway because I'm not one to be picky. And then I have one lit pick, which I'm bringing back the lit pick.
You're bringing it back. Good. I've only got 5, so...
Okay, so you go first then.
Yeah, that's how it works. So first nitpick, raining at a funeral.
It's a cliche.
So cliche. I feel like I've seen so many funerals watching movies recently, and it's always raining. It's just very annoying. Next up, okay, I don't know why Logan doesn't believe that Laura is a mutant when Charles Xavier tells her, considering all the stuff that's been going on in regards to her being looked for, and she's trying to escape, and like he's just very dismissive of the idea that she's a mutant.
Yeah, he's a bit overly cynical.
Yes, even though he's got no reason not to assume she's a mutant, and plenty of reasons to assume she is a mutant.
Well, he does have one reason to assume she's a mutant, or to assume she's not a mutant, which is, of course, that no mutants have been born in 25 years in this universe. So obviously there's, which we'll get into. But yeah,
apart from
obviously that
that
doesn't make it possible. Yes.
Yeah, specifically relating to her is what I meant.
Yeah, got you. Yeah.
So Gabrielle, this is the woman that breaks Laura out of the thing in Mexico City. She manages to edit all of this footage of the facility in Mexico City together, and she does it really well.
I had that down. Yeah,
she's a better editor than you, Michael.
I know. Yeah, because I wrote. I can't help but think of the editing that would have gone into creating that little video explaining Transigen. Like she got some good. She got Sony Vegas, and she was like Sony Vegas. I don't know, 2029. It's probably what it would be.
Well, of course, this movie is set in 2029, so you could say,
yes.
well, maybe it's easier to edit videos than it is today. But yeah, it still requires a lot of skill for a nurse.
No, yeah, and it's a lot of effort. Like she would have been. You just imagine her like dragging those images, and you think to yourself, like, I mean, even today when I'm making my fantastic YouTube film reviews and whatever, I'm thinking, would it not be better if I just did what some people do, where they just film themselves talking about it rather than editing the footage? It's a lot of effort. So yeah, I mean, she realistically, she could have just filmed herself. She didn't need to make the effort.
Good point. So next one, Laura and Gabrielle, they escape from the lab right around the same time as Logan is spotted. So this is a coincidence thing. Yeah. So obviously they escape because they're going to kill all the kids, and it's just around the same time that Logan obviously is spotted because he kills a bunch of Mexican gangsters. And also the one mutant that escapes and manages to be around the same area as Logan is his daughter. Is the mutant that used his DNA.
Yeah.
Could have been Charles Xavier's daughter, but no, it's his. So very.
Yeah, it could have been any. Yeah, it could have been that any of those random kids who were just running along. Like imagine it's one of them, and we just.
Could have been that fat kid.
I was thinking that little fat kid who got caught like really early. That would have been.
He's been flipping and killing people, is he?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I guess it's lucky that he had probably the most useful mutant in terms of killing people and not dying. In fact, if anything, she's probably more capable than Wolverine.
Okay, yeah. Next one, she can drive. Wow. How, Michael? How can this kid who's like?
Are you saying women? Are you saying women can't drive, Luke? Is that what you're saying right now?
No. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying women mutants. Like, there's a big.
Okay, yeah, got you. No, yeah. I mean, here's the thing. Like, driving, it's anybody can drive as long as they're allowed to go slow. As long as they're allowed to go slow enough.
Yeah,
think about it. I mean, like, here's the thing: your main problem with driving, I think, is like other drivers. So if you live in America where there's like massive stretches of nothing, then I feel like it's a decent position to
yeah, but France just to park up perfectly.
Yeah, see, I do. I didn't really get to clock the parking job. Was it a nice little parallel jobby?
You got to be diligent when you're watching these movies, Michael.
I know. Yeah, sorry, I missed out the opportunity.
Anyway, what are your nitpicks?
Oh, goodness me. Okay. So one of mine you already got, which is why we do it, Luke. The reason why, of course, the person with the fewest nitpicks does it first is so that if they have nitpicks the other person has, then obviously the other person still has some nitpicks for you. So, okay. I don't... The logic of an adamantium bullet can kill you if you're made of adamantium. Of course, it's seen in the other X-Men films, but if you think about it, that would be like saying that a bullet made out of bone would kill us because our skeletons are made out of bone.
Just get with it, Michael.
I don't think that's true. Other one, okay, they knew that she was like a healing person, but they didn't send people in with like nets or tasers or something that would immobilize her. They just sent in a bunch of people with guns. And I was thinking to myself, like, for example, at the end, they the guy uses that harpoon thing on Wolverine. And I was thinking, that's what you do. Like, I noticed that. I've been watching a lot of these Wolverine films recently. And by a lot of them, I mean the 3 that exist. And I'm thinking, like, the amount of times they could just help themselves, because they've got all of these men, all of these resources, just bring, like, a big metal net so he can't cut through it, or anything that would be slightly more effective than shooting at him, which is, like, 0% effective. And obviously, in this case, it's the girl, and yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I was going to mention that later when talking about action, but yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's fair enough. Okay, next one is the editing one, which you already mentioned. This one's very... You'll love this one, Luke.
Okay.
So the film Shane, which they're watching, which is a cowboy film, was made in 1953. Professor X says the film is almost 100 years old when the film is 76 years old. And I would say that's a bit of a stretch for...
Yeah, a bit of an exaggeration there.
Exactly. Like, And the weird thing is there are films that would be over 100 years old in like 2029. Metropolis. They should have been watching Metropolis.
Okay, what's your next one?
Okay, how can Professor X's seizures keep dead men from falling over? Now, what I'm referring to is, of course, Professor X. He's always had this ability to, freeze time, freeze people. But of course, the way he does that, I would assume, is because he's a telepath. So he stops people thinking. He stops their brains, which means he doesn't actually stop time itself. He just stops people from doing things. And evidence of that is the fact that obviously Wolverine is the only person who's able to move around because he's got more endurance than the average person. That's his whole mutation, and that's why he can kind of handle it. So here's the thing. There's a scene where Wolverine stabs a guy in the head, in the brain, and that would kill him instantly, which would mean that he would just fall to the ground. But in this film, it acts as if it's like he's stopping time, even though heretofore it's been established that he's just stopping individuals from doing things, and therefore if you die, you're dead anyway, and you fall over.
Nice cough there, Water.
Yes. All right, okay. Sorry, I was trying to find my place. So the character finding the photo with all the convenient details on it, this is, of course, the Reaver. I can't remember his name. I think it's Xander. Is that right?
Well, the blonde guy.
Yeah.
I think he's actually called Donald, I think.
Okay, Donald, yeah. Mr. Trump. Yeah, he finds this photo, and it's got like all the names, and I think it's got location on it, and it's a bit property of Peter Parker from the Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And it's just a bit of a cliche. They should have and could have shot Logan while he was fighting 24. I think is the Logan cone called X-24 or something?
Yes, X-24. Yes.
Yes. So basically, Logan. It's been established. They've made this big point about the fact that Logan is not as resilient to bullets as he has been. And they literally say, just a couple of shots would kill you now because the green serum, whatever it is, has worn off. And then he starts fighting X-24, and I was thinking to myself, and they're kind of pointing guns at them, waiting to see what happens. And I was thinking they should probably just shoot because, like, number one, they are going to get clear shots. Like at various points in moments where you think, they probably could have had a clear shot there. Like Wolverine throws X-24 away, and he stood there, and they're just all watching with their guns. I'm thinking, you've already said like he could be killed quite easily with a gun. At this point, you want him to die. And then, of course, but even if they didn't have a clear shot, they could shoot anyway, because X-24 could handle being shot a couple of times because he's obviously got a superior healing factor, and then they'd kill Wolverine. So, they weren't very good there.
Yeah, these guys aren't the smartest.
Yeah. And this is my tentative one, and it's mostly sensitive because I think you could say it's because of the world they've established. But obviously the Mexicans are very casually shoot Wolverine. And I think obviously in general, criminals are quite reticent to kill people, especially somewhat organized criminals, because they are aware that, killing somebody can have pretty serious repercussions, whereas, stealing somebody's, most criminal activity, you'll be okay. You shoot somebody, suddenly things are a complete disaster. So, most criminals, they'll rob a bank, but they don't actually want to shoot anyone. And if they can get away with it, they won't shoot anyone. They just shoot them for no reason. And again, the reason why I say it's sensitive is because maybe it's because this is such a not post-apocalyptic, but it's such a kind of dilapidated society. It's kind of like a near post-apocalyptic society, and that in many ways society seems to have degenerated somewhat. And maybe that's why they're more cavalier about shooting him. So that's why I say it's sensitive.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it does seem kind of post-apocalyptic, but I'm not sure it is. I just think it's kind of dystopian.
Yeah, dystopian. That's really the word I wanted there. Thank you, Luke.
Yeah, you're welcome.
But now we have my lit pick. Okay,
let's hear this.
I like how he couldn't break through the fence. I just thought it was like, because it's one of those things where like in films, generally speaking, everything kind of goes like fine, and you don't get like these realistic mix of like mistakes and like things that just don't go according to plan. And obviously, so Logan, he's escaping from the kind of water tower place, which was the former steel smelting something, and he says, I'm going to ram through this fence, and he drives into it and he hits it and it kind of buckles but doesn't break, and he's like, oh crap, man, I really wanted to break through that. And then it like, I don't know, it's just, I was like, oh, that's interesting, because it's like what could potentially actually happen in real life. But obviously in most films, just plowed right through it. And it would be like, yeah. But in this film, I was like, oh, no, it's reality. Damn it.
Yeah, I was going to mention that again in the action later. At the moment, I did like. So, yeah. Yes. Yeah, it is a worthy lit pick, though.
Yeah. To be fair, I actually didn't have a category for action. And if I would have had that, because I was wondering where to put that scene, and I put it under lit pick. But yeah, I didn't. So, apart from that, Luke, next thing I think we need to talk about is what you mentioned. But I'm going to introduce it as if I'm the one who wanted to talk about it, which is the uniqueness of this film as far as comic book films go. So, Luke, why don't you tell us a thing or two about the uniqueness of this film as far as comic book films go?
Yeah, sure, Michael. So obviously, this is not a standard superhero movie. In this movie, Logan goes gay for a whole month and gets into all sorts of shenanigans along the way.
I don't get it. No, I do get it. Really, I do.
Yeah. Okay, good. Whatever happened with that, by the way? Did he go gay for March, I think?
I don't know exactly how it, like, if it was actually something that he committed to. Okay. I like to think, like, what he did is he went gay, but he didn't actually act on his homosexuality. So he became, for a month, attracted to men, but he never actually was intimate with men. Because, because he just felt like he wasn't in the mood, Luke.
Fair enough. No, obviously that is a reference to Logan Paul going gay for a month. And who knows if he did it? I don't know. But yeah. But the point is that Logan is also, obviously the premise that I just mentioned, that wouldn't be a typical superhero movie. But the actual movie is not a typical superhero movie either. So it's R-rated, first off. There is no CGI really. There's no like massive blue sky beam that's coming, and a bunch of aliens jumping out of it, coming to destroy the Earth in the final act. It's really not a typical superhero movie, and it is more like a survivalist kind of thriller. Also, you could say maybe it's a western as well. It's got some elements of that in there as well.
Or even a neo-western.
Ah, yes. Well, I mean that's. Yeah, I mean it's just you're just sticking the word "new" in front of it, because it's set in the future.
Or a neo-noir film.
Yeah. Obviously, it is R-rated, so similarities to Deadpool.
It's identical.
Yeah, it's an identical movie. Obviously, this movie is another unorthodox superhero movie. Not at all similar in terms of Deadpool to tone or plot or what it's trying to do. But again, it's a superhero movie which is just so different. And we talked about with Deadpool a year ago about how Deadpool was released at a time when there was a saturation of superhero movies. Obviously, Deadpool came out in 2016. Logan, this came out in 2017. And yeah, I think
I think you'll find that Logan came out in May, only March.
Oh, that's great. Well done. Okay, that's the last Logan Paul.
Yeah, okay, maybe.
Yeah. This movie couldn't have been done in 2006, like Deadpool couldn't have been done in 2006, because you need this movie relies on it being a contrast. Or maybe it doesn't rely on it being a contrast, but I don't think it would have been made if there
It's
hadn't been
enhanced by it being a contrast
yes, exactly.
as well.
I mean, the movie that we were going to do, but then we switched it up to Logan because we thought it'd be more interesting, was X-Men Apocalypse, which obviously came out in the summer of 2016. And that is, by all accounts, just a by-the-numbers superhero movie that this movie was trying to be as far away from as possible. So it's really good to see that, filmmakers now are taking superhero movies. We've seen it with Deadpool, we've seen it with Logan, and we are also going to see it looks like, with the Joker. Although the Joker has been done very well in previous superhero movies, mainly in Dark Knight.
Name one art.
This again looks like it's continuing a trend of superhero movies which are atypical, which I fully endorse, and I'm sure you do as well.
I agree. It's good to. I mean, what do they say, Luke? They say variety is the spice of life.
They do say that, yes.
But what's probably going to happen is that. Although actually, I guess you could say, in some sense, obviously there was a period of like people saying, "Oh, gritty superhero films," and films were supposed to be gritty. But I guess this is kind of like, and obviously this is kind of a return to that idea of grittiness in superhero films. But I guess it's kind
of. What do you mean? People
are
saying gritty?
Well, so when the Amazing Spider-Man came out, it was supposed to be like the gritty alternative to the fun wham pam thank you ma'am films by Sam Raimi, and it was
really,
in response to. Yeah, I know it's kind of weird. Like, so basically, Dark Knight came out, and it was like obviously quite dark and brooding, and then people were like, oh, it's shot in these it's shot like Dunkirk. People said in reference to a film that hadn't been released yet. It's just shot like a proper decent film with it's like a drama. That's the word. So it's like Batman, the Dark Knight trilogy was like a drama. People were like, well, we're going to make, and that's why they had. I mean, obviously the best thing in Amazing Spider-Man, the fact that there's his parents are like spies, secret agents, and he has to find out what happened to them. We should do Amazing Spider-Man at some point. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, so, and that was kind of like a gritty idea. And then obviously, Man of Steel, I guess, was supposed to be kind of gritty. Or again, but then I think obviously this film, in some sense was, it's not fun. And you could say, oh, it's like when Batman is old in The Dark Knight Rises, or when Batman is old in Batman v Superman. But obviously, I guess I would say, so in other words, what makes this film good is not only not only the way in which it is a departure from like your standard happy-go-lucky superhero film, but also the fact that it's good.
Executed well?
Yeah, it's executed well. It's good.
Well, that's what
And speaking of which...
Oh, what?
Plot.
Yes, plot. So yeah, like you say, Michael, it's we've seen gritty superhero movies before, and we have seen the same kind of storyline. So obviously, in this movie, it's like the one last chance to be a hero story. Logan is reluctant to help at first, but eventually he becomes a hero once again, and it's nothing original. And again, you could say, well, this perhaps is the most realistic, most gritty, most depressing superhero movie that has ever been released. But you could say, well, these trends or these type of movies have occurred before, like you said, with Man of Steel. But this is just executed so well, and I think that is the key to this movie. It's like he says, he's like when he's saying to when he's talking to Laura at the end of the movie, and he says I people who I care about get hurt, and his refusal to be a hero is pretty clear, and it's like okay, I've seen this before, and I would like, by the way, I haven't watched the previous two Wolverine movies. But I have seen a bunch of X-Men movies, but I haven't seen the two standalone Wolverine movies. But you can just tell, obviously, he's scarred by all the stuff that's happened in those movies, and just by his character, which obviously is credit to Hugh Jackman. But yeah, it's the point I'm trying to make is like it's quite typical, like his motivations.
Yeah, it's the broken man story arc.
Yes, but yeah, like we said, it's just executed very well. He's still like an asshole until almost the very end, but his redemption and his turn back to being a hero does feel earned because all the stuff he goes through in the movie, and how you do really get a sense of how hurt he is. And again, that's a credit to Hugh Jackman and how depressed he is throughout the movie. So yeah, what do you anything to say about that?
No, I mean, not really. In terms of it being, just well executed. I mean, obviously we'll go into specifics of how it's so well executed, but in general, I think you've pretty much stated the case quite clearly. But yeah, in terms of specifics about the plot, what do you have to say? I have a few things to say about the premise. I don't know if you do.
Well, again, I'd just say this about the actual premise. So obviously, it's quite a dark thing. Generally. I've got that. As you perhaps would expect in an R-rated movie, Laura, who is obviously Wolverine's daughter, has been genetically grown in a lab, like loads of other mutants, to be super soldiers, and they're treated like patents and are copyrighted and all that. It's not Ant-Man or Thor Ragnarok, this movie.
No.
Not by a long shot.
It's not Batman 1966.
No, it is not, no. But again, I do think that, just the plot in general, it's kind of in the background. It's not. There's not a lot of exposition doled out in this movie.
Oh yeah, I agree actually.
Which I do like, because again, it is about Logan. It's not really about this project down in Mexico City.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose the weird thing about this film is that you could take the premise, replace it with almost anything else, and you could have the same plot. Like, for example, a completely different film. There's an British indie crime film called London to Brighton, and the story of that is that a girl who's been sold into prostitution kills one of the men who tries to purchase her services, and then it turns out that man, his son, was a local crime boss, so he sends his lackeys to hunt her down, and they end up fleeing across England in order to escape to a place where they'll be safe. And again, that's kind of the idea. So it's somebody hunting somebody down. Person has to escape across country to get somewhere, and obviously you can take any pieces, put them in there, and got it. In this case, obviously it's girls an experiment, and the guys who are part of the company want to hunt her down. But obviously there's just so many things you could do with that premise, and the film or the plot would remain almost unchanged, which is I think and like you say, that in that sense the premise is in the background.
Yeah, I mean the thing is, it's really stripped down, and the fact that they don't even actually deal with the problem. Like, they don't destroy the facility in Mexico. They don't prevent another X-24, obviously that's the Wolverine clone, from being cloned again, or a bunch of kids being cloned again. And you could say, well, maybe it's not then it's not a proper superhero movie or a proper ending if they don't actually destroy that facility. But it's not really about the premise. It is about Logan. Yeah. So they just use this premise to instigate the story.
Maybe the true premise was the friends we made along the way.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I do want to say on the premise, because the word I wrote down for the premise was gut wrenching, and it is this idea of because the basic premise, and it's worth noting, of course, that in the X-Men, there's always been this pretense of the Holocaust. That's always been hanging over it, because obviously, I think there's at least 2, possibly 3 X-Men films in the X-Men universe that start with I don't know what the word is, like a prologue that takes place during the Holocaust.
I know X-Men First Class definitely does.
Yes, in X-Men First Class, you have a kid who is, shot. His mum gets shot in front of him, and obviously, there's been this idea in X-Men, in several X-Men films, that they're experimenting on mutants, and obviously the implications of experimenting on mutants are pretty horrendous. But then in this film, it's obviously the premise is that they are experimenting on little children, and they don't let the little children be thought of as human beings. And then when they decide that the little children are no longer profitable to them, they decide to kill all of the little children. And that's a very gut-wrenching premise, especially, first, and also the other thing is, so the girl in question, Laura, has the adamantium fixed to her, and there's a big deal made in Wolverine's story arc about how getting the adamantium binded to your skeleton is a really painful process. So there we go. That's another degree of unpleasantness. But, obviously, and it's kind of made more unpleasant by the fact that you can think of, for example, and this is why the X-Men films often go back to the Holocaust, because Joseph Mengele and things like that actually experimented on children in, I think it was Auschwitz. And, obviously, most people know about him. And, that's the thing, that kind of makes it even more unpleasant, the fact that you can think about the real-world examples of things like this that actually happened, and it's pretty messed up.
Yeah, no, I didn't actually think about the Holocaust comparison with what the scientists were doing to the kids in this movie. But yeah, I
Yeah.
do know obviously about the. I guess mutants in X-Men. Obviously, they have been sort of a metaphor for Jews. And
Yeah.
again,
Any oppressed group also.
yeah, any oppressed group in society, how the government often clamps down on them. And obviously, Magneto, one of the reasons why he's such an interesting villain is because he's a bad guy, but you can understand his motivations.
Yeah.
Which are to protect mutant kind because he feels like they're being oppressed. And he's an extremist, but like any terrorist, I guess. Well, you could call him a terrorist, I guess. But like with any terrorist, there are motivations, there are reasons behind why he's doing it, and obviously he believes he's 100% in the right. But yeah, that's obviously the background to the X-Men story. And yeah, again, this is, even though I didn't notice it at first, yeah, there are shades of that in this movie, definitely.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to say, actually, just because the premise of the film, I think you've heard of this film. It's a lot like the film Children of Men by Alfonso Cuarón, where basically, obviously, in Children of Men, the premise is that it's been, I don't know how long it's been, but it's been like X number of years. I think over 20 years is implied.
25, maybe?
Yeah, it's probably, 25 years since any child has been born. And obviously in Children of Men, it turns out there has been child born. And obviously in this, it's been 20, I think it's also been 25 years. It's probably where you got the number 25 from, by the way. But yeah, it's been 25 years in this since a mutant was born. And therefore, and obviously then there are in fact mutants. And we find out, of course, it should be said, that the company, Alkali Transigen, I think that's the name,
yes,
was responsible for culling mutants by putting. It says they put chemicals in like the food and stuff.
The freaking frogs get.
Yes, which prevent the mutant gene from manifesting, and they did that in order to control the mutant population, so they would be the only people with mutants. And then obviously there's an implied. They talk about how, and this is another interesting thing. Caliban?
Caliban.
They say that he helped them round up the other mutants, and I think I might be wrong about this. I think there's a point where Wolverine says like that he's done horrible things, or like he's done, and obviously there's a million things he could be referring to there. I think maybe it's implied that Wolverine was also part of the effort to round up mutants in this universe. Again, I wouldn't completely stand by that, but obviously you have this idea of like there was an attempt to kill mutants, and at least one of our main characters and protagonists, I guess I can't really say it's a main character, but a good guy was an active participant in that. So it's obviously a pretty, I mean, we've already said it's grim, but then there's this dimension of like authoritarianism, but like corporate authoritarianism. It's like a world where these companies control everything, which is obviously everyone's favorite dystopian idea. Like you get that with Skynet and I don't know, probably another film. Anyway, yeah, I think
probably another film.
The final, I guess, thing actually I just wanted to say on the premise was I was thinking to myself, with an X-Men story, this is how you write an X-Men story. You think, what's something which relates to real world political problems or real world kind of political persecution or social tension, and then you just put mutants into it. I think that's kind of how you make a good X-Men film. Like you got the one where it's like they have a cure for being a mutant, and the different sides get divided on that and stuff like that. And basically that's how you write your X-Men film. And this is obviously a really good premise there. And yeah, basically that's my advice. If any people who write X-Men films are listening, you just start with like, what would be an interesting idea if it didn't have mutants, and what would be an interesting idea that kind of parallels some things that happen in reality, and then let's just throw mutants into the mix, and that's your X-Men formula. And it's a pretty, I would say quite consistently actually, if they do that, it leads to quite entertaining films.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, I have a few more things to say about the plot, but that's everything I've got to say about the premise. So if you want to talk about anything you've got to say about the plot.
Not anything else to say about the premise. Obviously, just getting into the plot, there is, in this movie, a bunch of escaping. It's a standard chase stuff. Wolverine, Laura, and Charles Xavier. They're trying to avoid the bad guys. What are they called again? They've got a name like
Reavers.
Yeah. So they're trying to avoid them. So yeah, there's I guess continuous scenes in which these guys, they catch up to them and they try to escape.
Cat and mouse, as the kids are saying nowadays.
Yeah, kind of like a cat and mouse. I do have a problem though with one particular part of this plot.
All right, yeah.
It's when they actually go back with the Black family, the farmers.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So obviously they're trying to escape. They're going through a motorway. They an auto truck indicates wrongly, and so this family, a bunch of their horses go out onto the highway, and Charles Xavier manages to get them back to the family, and then the family like, hey, do you want to come back to our house for dinner? And Logan quite rightly says, you know what, I don't think so, because, you know, we're on the run, we're trying to get to North Dakota or whatever, and, you know, what if these government guys find you? Then we, you know, I imagine he's thinking we could put these people in danger. But Charles Xavier is just like, no, let's do it. Yeah. Let's do it. It's fine. Like,
you know, he's an old man. Have you ever? Old men, they're just so annoying, aren't they?
It's just such an incredibly stupid and dangerous thing to do, because they could get them killed, and obviously that's what happens. Obviously, Logan manages to sort out the father's water problem, but then the father has bigger problems on his own.
He's got a blood problem. Also, actually, I wanted to bring this up. So the plot point of Logan being rescued or hanging out with some decent country folks in the middle of rural America, and then those country folks being shot and killed, killed by somebody who's chasing Logan, also happens in X-Men Origins Wolverine. He escapes from some people trying to kill him, goes to a barn, he meets a nice old couple, and they have a nice little humanizing moment, like, oh, Logan, we love you, you're going to be a good man. I know I can see you've been through some stuff, son, but if you just leave it behind you, you'll be fine. And then obviously a guy comes in, kills the lovely family we've got to know, and they basically just stole it. Imagine that. Imagine stealing from X-Men Origins Wolverine. That tells you how terrible this film is, that they stole from X-Men Origins Wolverine.
I mean, I don't know. X-Men's Origin Wolverine, one of the script writers, it's pretty good.
Yeah. Actually, X-Men Origins Wolverine, they did some good stuff. And
it's one of the most popular TV shows of all time. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Have you seen the video? It was like a video of the actors respond like at table reads, so they obviously do table reads for these scripts.
The guy who plays Varys or whatever.
Yeah, and he just looked so angry. And there was also like another one of the actors who play Jon and Daenerys when they find out that Jon stabs and kills Daenerys, and it's like Jon just pulls this face. Oh, sorry, Kit Harington is his name. He just pulls this face of like horror and disgust, and like Amelia Clarke is like makes this like face at him like, I'm really sorry, like this is happening right now, and then I guess the end, and I don't know which one it is. Dan or Dave says end scene, and it like pans up to him. He's just got this really smug look on his face, like he's written something fantastic. Anyway, okay, so
I just want to say, obviously, the reason why they had the family in the movie was to contrast Logan's life with the family. Obviously, Charles Xavier says, you know, this is what life is about, or whatever. And it's going to show Logan, like, you know, this is life doesn't have to be like how you're living it. Could be like this. But obviously, that's that is. I still think, you know, it's a bit shit how it happens.
No, I agree. It's a bit unrealistic.
Yeah.
Although,
Patrick Stewart also dies.
Yes, Patrick. So maybe we should talk about. I mean, maybe you want to talk about some action. Just the fact that obviously two major characters in X-Men die. I would say basically these are the two characters you can't. So I would say in X-Men there are probably like 4 characters who you can't kill off if you want the series to have longevity. And again, you don't have to want the series to have longevity. Obviously, sometimes it's good if a show actually comes to an end, or a film series actually comes to an end. But those 4 characters are Wolverine and Professor X on the good guy side, and then Magneto and Mystique on the bad guy side. I think if you kill off any of those characters, then you're basically saying, all right, this is winding down now. You can't keep going after you've done that. And obviously, I mean, that's perfectly appropriate. This definitely does feel like a film that is winding down. And obviously, I think there's not going to be chronologically another film after this, because we'll talk about this later when we talk about the X-Men universe, but I don't know if you know, the X-Men universe is ending. They are officially stopping it.
Yeah.
And I imagine, I don't think, because obviously the 2 other films they're doing is, I think, Dark Phoenix, which is going to be set in kind of the prequel timeline.
Yes.
So probably in the 90s, like following on from Apocalypse.
Yeah, I think it's 92, I think,
Yeah, and then they're doing New Mutant. Maybe New Mutants could be the final chronological thing. But yeah, basically, I mean, what do you think about those 2 big deaths, Luke? Did they impact you? Did you go, wow?
Well, I was going to talk about the death of Logan at the end.
All right, okay, so we can talk about Professor X's death.
But yeah, Professor X, I mean, I think it's a decent end. It's kind of unexpected when you watch it the first time. You're like, you don't expect him to die. It's like, oh, fuck, shit.
I thought it was going to be a dream.
Yeah, no,
I thought he was going to get stabbed and then wake up and go, oh.
No, yeah, I didn't expect it at all. But yeah, he gives a nice, final speech. Very, very nice of the X-24 Wolverine to let him have that speech before he dies.
Although actually, I would point out you were talking about how Professor X gives this whole thing about how this is what a true family is like. Blah blah blah. This is the thing that you have to be open to. Wolverine doesn't actually hear that speech because obviously it's because it's the fake evil guy who's there. Yes. So he gives the speech that could really would be really good and impactful for Logan to hear. And it's just because Professor X is a confused old man, he accidentally told it to the wrong person. So,
yeah. Okay, so obviously, I think we should talk about X-24 now. So obviously, Wolverine has a clone of himself, which obviously that has been done in multiple superhero movies, and I don't think I really liked it. I would prefer it if it was just the normal bad guys killing him, because it does seem more grounded then.
Yeah, well, it is also. I mean, we have this. It's the hero. But the evil version of the hero is a common.
It is common, yeah. Then you can say, well, how would you get the facility being shut down in Mexico City? Because of course they shut it down because X-24 has been created. Or you could just have the nurses just plan the escape, like they just say on a whim, right? We're going to get these kids out of here.
Yeah.
Maybe so you could do it like that, but yeah, it just seemed a bit like in a movie which is meant to be as grounded as possible. Like obviously it's a typical superhero thing that happens. It happened recently it's kind of different, but it happened recently in Endgame as well, Avengers Endgame. Yeah, Captain America fights himself. And there's not an evil Captain America, but it's just another example of the superhero fighting another version of themselves.
What about in Superman 2, when Superman gets drunk and fights a evil version of himself in his own psyche?
Yeah, no, again, it's happened before.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I would think that the funny thing is, and I'm going to return back to this, X-Men Origins Wolverine. See, one of the things that happened in X-Men Origins Wolverine is that they capture Logan because they want to turn him into Weapon X, and I think it's X10. So basically, this idea is worth knowing. Actually, the X-24 thing has a history in the X-Men film canon. Because in obviously the 1970s, 80s, when X-Men Origins Wolverine is primarily set, I think it's the 80s, they're doing X10, and X10 is Logan. And then obviously you can assume that there's several other experiments after then, and then they end up with X24. But here's the thing here, X11 is the notorious awful Deadpool. So you haven't seen X-Men Origins Wolverine, I'm guessing, because I think you said you've not seen any of the other Wolverine
nothing
things.
Standalone.
Yeah. So X-Men Origins Wolverine, the famous or infamous Deadpool, who has his mouth shown shut and has adamantium blades.
I have seen that, actually. I remember I saw that scene. Not the rest of the movie, but I do remember watching that scene. Yeah,
and he has laser eyes. But the thing is, so basically, the thing about Weapon X11, is that it's not really Deadpool, basically. It's what they've done in X-Men Origins Wolverine is they've taken loads of mutants and combined their powers to create X11. And I just bring that up because it's kind of funny that X11 is actually a really powerful villain in that he's got, blades, and he's got super healing, and he's got laser eyes and stuff like that. And obviously it's kind of stupid in the context of being Deadpool. But then I guess you could say, well, maybe in this film that might have worked a bit. So if it's not just a clone of Wolverine, but say a composite, they develop a new mutant that has a multiple powers, like they have powers that they've taken from loads of different mutants, and that makes him super powerful. Like, for example, he has Caliban's ability to hunt mutants, which makes him really good at hunting mutants. He has, obviously, Wolverine super healing, things like that. I think that probably would have been a better direction. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, no, that would have made it more interesting, but...
Yeah, but then I would have also been saying that they stole from X-Men Origins. So.
Yeah. Well, again, I still think it would have the same problem. Like, just for me, I just wanted the bad guys chasing Logan. I didn't want another clone of Logan.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, that bad guy was pretty good in terms of how dislikable he was. So
yeah, exactly. He's a guy called Donald trying to chase down Mexican immigrants. I mean, what more do you want? Speaking of the Mexican immigrant, I think it's time to talk about Laura.
I've got one thing to say about Laura. I was going to put this as a nitpick, and I think it's kind of on the precipice. Maybe I should have put it as a nitpick, but I was thinking to myself, what's her name? She tells her this lie. She says, "Oh, she's my daughter, and I'm her mother, and our boyfriend's abusive." And to be honest, like that, I would say that's probably less likely to convince Logan than saying we were tortured or she was tortured in a facility, and the people who tortured her are now coming to kill her, I think that would probably be more likely to motivate somebody to help her. So it's kind of weird that she tells this lie, and yet the lie is probably less sympathetic and convincing than the truth. But I mean, like I said, it probably should have been a nitpick. But
yeah, no, you are right. But I was going to mention something that again could have been a nitpick. It was on the precipice, but I thought it was bigger than that.
Yeah.
The fact that she doesn't speak for the whole movie, then she can speak all of a sudden.
It's a goof, Luke. She's doing it as a goof.
She speaks Spanish. Okay, fine. Then she can speak English.
Okay, I think. Okay, so this is going to be. I was thinking about this. I have a potential explanation. I'm not saying it's a good one, Luke.
No, give it to me. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe because she's a telepath, that in some way enables her. Okay, now I thought number one. Okay, number one is in some way. Oh yeah, you're right. Oh, okay. You know what, Luke? I just made a huge mistake. Okay, so what I meant was because she was communicating with Professor X and he had telepathy. Maybe Professor X, that's I completely misspoke or miscommunicated. So then maybe Professor X in some way was able to actually impart knowledge onto her. And because obviously, he was communicating with her, and maybe we could assume, for example, that originally he was communicating with her in some kind of weird mind speak that transcends language. But obviously, because Professor X speaks English, he kind of eventually just brought English into her head. I mean, because Professor X, when you think about it, he's a pretty powerful mutant, and if anything, he's kind of got more powerful now with his weird, giant mass murdering seizures. Yeah. So maybe he's able to kind of
teach her English.
Somebody, teach her English. Just put it in someone's head. Just
okay. Well,
tell you what, that would be. You think about how much money you could make if that was if you just had the ability to just you'd be like, hey, why pay for a night class to learn to clumsily speak Russian when I can just put it right into your head?
Anyway, so obviously Logan and Laura managed to escape to Eden, and obviously then they're trying to get across the border to Canada. And again, I don't know if the bad guys would really care about international borders considering the heinous shit they have done. But maybe they do.
Well, what I like to imagine is that it's only the US and I guess Mexico that have become dystopian, and Canada has a perfectly functioning utopian society, and basically they get there and Canada's just able to handily thwart the bad guys. That's what's happening in my head canon. They just rush them.
Yeah. Then obviously Logan manages to complete his redemption, and the last fight scene obviously we'll get onto when talking about the actual fight. And as we said, the emotional ending, the arc that Logan goes on and then resulting in the emotional ending, it's very well done. There's the last roar he does. Obviously he tells Laura not to become the weapon she was made to be. She says "Daddy," and then
Daddy.
No, in a sweet way.
Yeah, I know.
And then she turns the cross, so it's an X next to his grave, and it's just it's such a wonderfully emotional ending to cap off it's a great ending to a really good film.
Yeah, and obviously such an iconic character, which is yes. Good,
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I'm not Laura didn't really call him Daddy before or anything like that, and there's no real sense that she thought he was her dad, but still I'm willing to put that aside because it was an incredibly well done emotional moment.
Yeah, I think maybe if you were to make one thing, I suppose you could have got some mileage. You would have to considerably tweak the plot in order for this to work, but have some of the people who actually have known Logan over multiple films seeing his death. But then obviously for that to work, you need to have Cyclops or Beast or Havoc. I don't know what the other ones are called, but you'd have to have one of those just hanging around. Maybe he just shows up at the end hey, what's going on? Oh, Logan's dead. Oh man. I think that would have worked.
Yeah, oh man. But anyway, I just want to talk about this movie generally.
Yeah.
Or symbolically, I should say, rather. So obviously, like you mentioned, it's the last of the Wolverine movies. This X-Men thing has been going on for 17 years, am I right?
So I think the first one was in 2000.
Yeah, and obviously this is 2017.
Yeah.
Yeah, what was the first one?
I would just double check, yeah.
It was just called X-Men, right?
Yeah, so the first one was just called, and then it was X-Men, X2, X United, and X-Men 3, The Last Stand.
Best movie.
And then X-Men Origins Wolverine, First Class, Wolverine. Then was Wolverine. Then there was Days of Future Past, then there was Apocalypse 2016,
Yes, it was. Yes,
and then there was Logan.
that's Logan. And now, Dark Phoenix. But yeah, so obviously this is the last movie that Wolverine is in. It's been going on for 17 years. Last of Patrick Stewart as well, and they sacrificed themselves so a bunch of mutants, or a bunch of mutant kids, to be more precise, can be saved. And it really is like a perfect send-off. Like they've lived their lives, they've made mistakes or whatever, but they've done their jobs. So that, one last, what a better way to, there isn't a better way to sacrifice yourself to ensure the survival of the next group of mutants, which obviously they both are. So yeah, I just think again it was a great ending, not just to the movie but to the whole Wolverine X-Men storyline that's been going on again for almost 2 decades.
No, yeah, I agree. Yeah, and obviously, if you cared, then no. So it's I mean, like from my perspective, these films have been on since I was like 5. So I guess you could say it's like, I mean, it's more long running. Obviously, the Marvel films, like the Marvel films, kind of appeared at the point where I was actually beginning to become slightly more cynical. The X-Men films were around when I was like, oh man, a little 5-year-old kid being like, oh, look at Wolverine, it was nice, oh, that's so cool. And you kind of just ignored how kind of not very good there are various moments in the original X-Men trilogy.
Yes.
My favorite worst line is when Storm uses a lightning strike on a villain called Toad, and she says, do you know what happens to a toad when it gets hit by lightning? The same thing that happens to everything else. It's the worst line. That's from one of the good ones. So, anyway, but yeah, I agree. Yeah, so it is definitely a good ending, and it will be interesting to see. And we'll talk about the X-Men universe because I have a few things to say about the X-Men universe.
Do that now, yeah.
Yeah, actually, that's a good idea. I mean, I did have something to say about world building, but actually, I think we've probably segued into X-Men universe, so it works quite well. So, I think I've got like 3 points to make about the X-Men universe. Number one, the films are very disconnected. I have a problem. Like, the thing about this film is I think this film is very good as a standalone film, but I do think that the way this film plays into the X-Men universe as a wider thing kind of shows, I think, a lot of the follies of the X-Men universe. Because I want to talk about each X-Men film kind of very briefly, going in chronological order. So, first of all, point number one. This is ostensibly the 3rd film in a trilogy. The trilogy being the Wolverine trilogy. Obviously, X-Men Origins Wolverine, The Wolverine, and then Logan. But here's the thing, Luke. The first 2 films no longer exist canonically. Because obviously, the first 2 films were made before 2014. 2014 is when we get Days of Future Past. And they're both primarily set after 1973. And obviously in 2014, in X-Men Days of Future Past, they go back to 1973 and they change history, meaning that they take any film made before that point, apart from the bits set before 1973, take any of the films made before that point out of continuity. So the Logan we're seeing in this film didn't do the stuff depicted in the Wolverine, and he didn't do the stuff depicted in X-Men Origins Wolverine, which I think is like, so that just kind of shows how disconnected they are. But if you look at the films, you've got X-Men First Class in chronological order of like when they're kind of set. X-Men First Class ends with, and I find this really funny, I was thinking about this, it ends with Magneto saying, I'm not going to be, one of you anymore. I'm going to be a bad guy. And then the next film chronologically is 1974, X-Men Days of Future Past, where the first thing they do is go find Magneto, who immediately agrees to help them. So it shows how they had no idea what they were doing. Because you would think, okay, yeah, so the first one's just ended with Magneto deciding he's going to be a bad guy. So obviously you're going to have the next film be about Magneto doing something bad. But no, the next film literally are just like, hey, Magneto, we need you to stop something. And it's like, okay, yeah, sure, fine. I'm happy doing that. And then the next film is in the 1980s. So it's been a decade so far. And that's obviously X-Men Apocalypse, where we find out Magneto is just chilling on a farm and then his kids get killed and he gets really upset and angry. But again, I mean, that film doesn't really relate to anything else. Like every single person just moved on so far. And then the next film obviously is, and obviously you get in this X-Men Origins, which does connect to Apocalypse in some ways, but that's more confusing than anything else because they exist in different timelines, so whatever. And then obviously after that you get the initial X-Men trilogy from X-Men to X-Men The Last Stand, and those are connected, so there we go. And then obviously after that you get the prequels, And then the next big film you get is X-Men Days of Future Past, in the future, where we find out that Sentinels, which have had very little build-up so far, have taken over the world, which has just come completely out of nowhere. And then they have to go back in time, change the future. And then the next thing we see, the way X-Men Days of Future Past ends, is Wolverine comes back and he finds out that basically everything is perfect. Like, he finds out that his girlfriend from the original trilogy is alive. He finds out that the school is back up and running. And basically he finds out that he's effectively changed the future. And then the next film after that, chronologically speaking, is this film, Logan, which takes place 15 years later. And also, fun fact, some people might ask, well, hold on a minute, if no mutant has been born for 25 years, and this is set 15 years later, why aren't they talking about it in the X-Men Days of Future Past? The reason is because the mutant gene only manifests itself when somebody is like approximately 9. So that's why they didn't notice. So basically what must have happened in Days of Future Past is Wolverine shows up, he finds out everything's fine, everything's happy, and then gradually they start to realize that there are no mutants. And basically this entire disintegration happens completely off screen. And I wanted to bring it up partially because you were talking about how this is such a great send-off for characters like
yes.
Professor Xavier and Wolverine. But having said that, at the end of Days of Future Past, you have characters like Kitty Pryde, you have characters like Cyclops, you have characters like Beast, characters who have this really kind of established, they've been there since day one. And also characters like Jean Grey, who I think is now going to be kind of like weirdly rebooted in Dark Phoenix in a really confusing way. But you have these characters who've been there since day one, and they don't get a send-off at all. And obviously, basically the thing is, this isn't a problem with Wolverine. This isn't a problem with Logan. It's a problem with the way that the universe has been handled, that suddenly we have, oh, look, everyone's happy, everyone's together. And then just off-screen, everything's turned to shit, and we have a film that feels completely disconnected. So that's point number one. Now, the point number two, Luke, is that I think X-Men should be a perfect cinematic universe. I want to make 3 reasons why. The first one is, I kind of just wanted it to be 3 reasons. So the first one's a bit of a cheat. Basically, I just think the premise is really interesting, the way it can kind of like reflect human society and obviously human political issues, which we've kind of already spoken about. But the second one, is tonal consistency. You see, I've always been a bit of against the Marvel universe, because I've always said, well, I like the idea of Iron Man, he's a weapons manufacturer who fights terrorists. Is kind of a bit confusing when he exists in the same universe as Thor, who's like a god who's sent to Earth to reclaim his valor. And then you've got the Hulk, who's like got this anger issue because he was abused as a child, and that enables him to unleash this destructive force that just kills everyone. And then you've got Captain America, who's this perfectly, fine, nice, idealistic person who defeats the bad guys and is and basically you've got all these completely different tones. And I think to some extent it kind of like sacrifices the integrity of the standalone superhero films, because it's like and you get all sorts of problems, like why can't they bring the Avengers? Like, there are loads of problems I think with a lot of the the Avengers standalone films that come from the fact that you're like, okay, yeah, it's nice that Iron Man's fighting these terrorists, but this is also in a universe where literal gods exist. And obviously then you have something like,
you're going on quite a bit now, Mike.
Yeah, no, I've been holding this all in, Luke, for ages. Okay. So you got Justice League, which is at least like tonally consistent. I'm like, okay, yeah, Wonder Woman, Superman, Green Lantern, they all exist in the same universe. That's fine by me. But here's the final thing, third and final thing, which I think makes the X-Men universe great, potentially great: expendability. Because Justice League, none of those characters can die, and if they are going to die, either they're going to be brought back, or it has to be this huge universe-altering moment. Like, here's the thing: if Batman dies, then it's basically the same as if Wolverine or Professor X die. In other words, it's an exciting moment, but it means that the universe is winding down. They're not going to have 10 more films after Batman dies. So no characters in the Justice League are expendable, and not many characters in the Avengers are expendable. And if they are going to die, it's going to be for some corporate reason, like the actors are leaving, which obviously happened in Endgame. And again, Endgame obviously did have a lot of satisfying payoffs. But at the end of the day, the reason why those characters left is because the actors were beyond kind of playing those roles. They wanted to move to a new place. Now, X-Men, on the other hand, there are so many characters, and you can become connected to them, and then they can die, and it can be impactful. And that's why, obviously, I say, like, all of these characters, like Beast and Jean Grey and blah, 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 like, it go on forever, just die off screen. And it's kind of like, you could have had emotional moments where these characters who we've got to know die in, like, these series of films that set up this disintegrating universe. But instead, it's just like, oh, I guess they're all dead. And yeah, that is everything that I...
Are you sure it's everything, Michael?
say I
I'm
almost
sure it's
actually
gonna
do feel like I had one other thing in the back of my head, but I'm gonna assume no. I'm gonna say I didn't. Maybe I'll come up with it right at the end, but now I'm going to talk about the world building, Luke.
I thought we were going to talk about Logan, Michael. I'm talking
about the world building of Logan. Okay, so this is going to be quick. Okay, number one, the line about tigers being extinct. I just thought that was like a nice little thing. I don't know. Yeah, he's like, oh, the tigers are extinct. And also, okay, this is one that I think is interesting. X-Men exist in this world. Like the comic book X-Men exist in this world. I think that's like quite a major thing. Because, I mean, well, what do you think about that, Luke? I'm going to force you to come up with a little take on that.
Oh, wow.
X-Men, the comic series, exists in this universe.
I mean...
And don't you dare say it's not worth talking about.
I don't really care.
I mean, you know, it's like I guess you could say because, okay, so one of the things he says like, none of this really happened. It's all just been made up. There is like a weird line he says like in real life, like people die and like people get killed and stuff, which is kind of weird because, like I say, one of the squandered opportunities of the X-Men universe is that I don't think they take full advantage of the expendability of the X-Men, and a lot of the time the X-Men don't die. So that was like, I was like, hold on a minute, what are you talking about? But I don't know, like I guess you could say so. It's obviously this is in some ways a very unique superhero film, and one of the ways they can have that is being like, hey, what you're seeing here in this comic book, that's not how it really went down. Things weren't really that simple. I guess like I say, the only problem is, well, we can't see what Logan's referring to, because if you do look at the original X-Men films, the X-Men films up until this point, they have been like a comic book. So, you know, like on the one hand, it's like this film acts like it's part of a completely different universe than one it's part of. But I thought that was interesting to have the X-Men comic books there.
Yeah, no, I guess so.
And finally, okay, I guess there's racism in this world. That's my so the black. Okay, so the black people own a farm, and the white people are very hostile to them. I think that might be because of racism. And I had
I don't think it's maybe racist. I just think the guy's, you know, the main honcho. He's like the guy of Roadhouse. You know, everything runs through him in his town.
Well, but anyway, let's assume it's racism because I think I have like a curious take. So I think it's pretty obvious, and like anyone could really think about it if they thought about the world. But like, racism is curiously absent from the X-Men films, and I think that's mostly because
there's no need.
Yeah, but also because like human beings hate mutants, and that causes people to unite against mutants. It's kind of like how, because nowadays the big issue is like gay rights and gender non-conforming people and things like that, and you get like black people and Jews and white people who are conservatives all on the same side on that issue. They're all like, oh, screw gay people, screw you know, gender non-conforming people, blah blah blah. And then obviously back in the day, before that was a thing, people were divided along gender, and then people were divided along race, and blah blah blah. So obviously in this universe, people were divided along mutants and non-mutants, and that kind of caused there to be not much tension within human societies. And then because mutants are extinct now racism is back. That's my theory. And that's why, because, you know, I mean, you could say, oh, you know, they just happen to be black and they just happen to be white. But isn't that a slightly more interesting take because it makes you think about the nature of prejudice, Luke?
Yes, no, that is that's an interesting point. I don't really have anything to add to that.
Yep, and we can do action now.
Yeah, action. So, obviously you've spent a bit of time talking about the X-Men general the film series, and obviously the world building and all that, which again, you know more about than me because you've watched more movies than me. I've seen how many X-Men? I've seen all the recent X-Men movies. I don't think I've seen like X2. I think I've seen all the rest of them. But anyway, so onto the action. So obviously there's various action scenes throughout the movie, and they're quite sparse, which again I liked.
Yeah.
First scene with him killing all those Mexican gangsters.
Cholos.
Yeah, Cholos. Yeah, that was okay. You know, it's just standard stuff about.
Yeah.
Oh, they don't realize he's a superhero, so he just murks them. And it's good. Then there's the next action scene when Laura, you realize she is like Wolverine. She starts murdering all of the, I guess, the bad guys. I don't know what are they called again.
Reavers.
Reavers. That's it.
Which also, I have to say, I think that's the name of the bad guys in the TV series Firefly by Josh Whedon. So it's embarrassing for them.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a very good action scene. You know, she's flipping around everywhere. Very satisfying.
Yeah. She comes out with that guy's head.
Yes. And when she kicks it, that's like, oh, that's surprising, but you know, it was good. Yeah, I think there is something satisfying when like the claws are sank into somebody.
Yes, it is.
it's more entertaining than just shooting them.
Yeah, nothing like a bit of penetration.
There are some instances when the bad guys are just standing there waiting to be ripped apart.
Yeah.
And as you said, obviously, them escape, which is bad. But as you said, the bit when they're trying to escape from the compound was pretty good. Not being able to escape and then killing the guys with the barbed wire.
You said you were going to bring up the fact that they don't use. I mean, I know I already brought it up, but you did say you were going to bring up, and maybe. I mean, maybe you didn't bring it up because I already brought it up. I was just going to say, like, the fact that obviously they should have gone in there with like means to suppress her, seeing as obviously it was weird that they went in there with guns, even though they knew guns wouldn't work. I guess I already mentioned that, so that's probably why you didn't bring it up. But
I was actually going to bring it up.
Okay.
I was just going to mention that was the train cliche, escape from a moving train.
Oh yeah, and that train was like long. I mean, maybe trains are that long in real life, or maybe this is again another thing with that universe. I don't know.
They can be that long in real life. The trains sometimes, Michael, they go on for miles. But yeah, the problem undercutting all this action, even though it is quite cool, especially with her flipping around everywhere, is they can't get killed with guns, and the bad guys, like you said, they aren't prepared, even though they know that bullets don't damage them. But like, it just just undercuts everything because they're knifing people, and it's like, well, all the bad guys are pretty harmless to them, unless they have like the adamantium bullets, which they don't.
Yeah. So first of all, I want to make a nitpick for X-Men Origins Wolverine because I rewatched it recently because I was curious. I rewatched the Wolverine trilogy. That's why I have so much thoughts about it. But I just want to bring this up because I find it really funny. In the X-Men Origins Wolverine, they have like a whole case of these adamantium bullets, and they send this guy called Zero, who is the best shot in the world. He can literally just kill people with no effort at all, shoot people from miles away. Absolutely fantastic. They send him after Wolverine with regular bullets, and obviously Wolverine doesn't get hurt at all. Zero dies, and then this guy's like, if you want to kill Wolverine, you need to use these adamantium bullets. I'm like, why did you mention that earlier, you dick? Anyway, but I just bring it up because I thought it was funny. But like what they usually do in these Wolverine films is they have like some way of taking away his healing power. Obviously in this, it's like that he's getting older, and because he's getting older, his ability to heal is getting worse. I think that kind of helps. In Wolverine, he has a parasite, which means he can't heal. Basically, it's kind of funny in a way that like Wolverine, one of the things that defines him is that he can't heal, and in pretty much every single Wolverine film, they go to some effort to take away his ability to heal, but whatever.
Okay. The next action scene, obviously in the farm, again, it's quite decent. Obviously, all the family die, which is quite brutal.
Hilarious, Luke, isn't it?
But obviously we talked about that before. Then you have the final action scene. Again, not a lot of action in this movie, like I said. Logan, when he starts attacking everybody, just going to town. Such a nice shot when he's just ripping people out.
I mean, this he goes crazy. So I guess we should bring this up. You haven't brought this up really properly. They have this thing in this universe which is a green serum, and it temporarily enhances your mutant powers. But if you use too much of it, it causes psychological damage and causes you to go temporarily crazy. And I guess the implication is if you use too much of it too often, you will go permanently crazy. And of course, so Wolverine, he decides to inject all of it into him because he really needs it, and then he goes just crazy. He goes psycho mode. And have you ever seen there's like behind the scenes thing of Wolverine or Hugh Jackman in a sound booth, like making the noises? So
I think I have.
I just think like ugh, like doing that in a room with nobody there. It's quite funny.
Yeah, when he sinks his claws into that guy's chest, when he just dives, goes for it. At the end, and he pins into a tree. That was really cool. Really cool.
What did you think about the villain's death? Did it satisfy you?
So obviously there's a scientist, which kills the bad guy when he's expositing dialogue, which it's typical stuff.
Well, I guess you could say, seeing as the bad guy hadn't quite finished, it was a bit. But also, actually, I was going to bring up that bad guy. I think his name is Rice, something Rice.
Yeah, that's cool.
I was thinking like Wolverine should have killed him at the farm, mostly because like he was there and like 10 feet away from him, Rice, the scientist guy, was like crawling along, like clearly incapacitated. And I was thinking, come on, Wolvie, just kill him, like, and then he's dealt with. And maybe even if he would have killed him there, then I guess like it seems like he almost is a pretty head honcho kind of guy there. So maybe if he would have killed them, I don't know, they would have given up. But
yeah, maybe. So obviously when Donald dies. It's an interesting fight scene, although I do think these kids, they're clearly used to using their powers. They could have used their powers to kill X-24 as well, instead of just running away. But yeah, and also try and kill a bunch of people who are chasing them through the forest as well. But they save it all up.
Yeah. Wait, hold on a minute. We need to talk about the guy who gets his arm shattered. That's pretty awesome. So a girl who has the ability to make freeze breath, breathes on the guy's arm, causes it to freeze, and then she smashes it.
I love it. Yeah. The end fight between X-24 and Wolverine, it did seem a bit quick, although maybe I'm just used to prolonged action sequences at the end of the movies.
I think the thing is, like, because Wolverine is like so weak at this point, like there's only so long you could have it last before it became very, unrealistic and unbelievable.
Yeah. That's the problem. And obviously this movie does try to strive for realism.
Yeah.
Which is appreciated, of course. But yeah, again, I would say overall in the action in this movie, it's good. It's definitely above average. And yeah, like Laura, when she's flipping around, stabbing people, that's when it's at its best. And yeah, it's just a shame that everything, like I said before, is just undercut with the fact that these superheroes cannot get killed with guns. And so it makes all the bad guys not really a threat to them. Which I don't know how you get around that, but yeah, it's just a bit.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, the thing is, like, in all of these films, the characters do have like plot armor, so they're not going to die. But obviously, in this, it's a bit like and there were like some moments where Laura was like trying to avoid the guns, and I was thinking, why does it even? I guess it should. No, yeah, actually, it should be said. So they do clarify in well, I think it's several times in the various X-Men films. I don't know if they ever clarify in this film, but Wolverine feels just as much pain as a normal human being from the things that happen to him. They just don't kill him.
Right. Okay.
Which, yeah.
Well, speaking of Wolverine, Michael, I think it's time to go on to the characters.
Yes.
Of Logan. So obviously, Wolverine or Logan, whatever, is the main guy in this movie. Obviously, he's older. In this movie, he's faded. And you said, this gives him the opportunity, particularly with his character, to it works well for him to do the, be a hero for the one last time, sacrifice himself, one final hurrah, etc., to save the day. And Hugh Jackman in this movie, as I said before, like he just plays it so well. Like you can really get a sense of this guy's broken and just done with life, and like obviously. There's a mini thing going on in the movie where he's thinking about killing himself.
Yeah.
Obviously, you can totally believe that he wants to kill himself.
Yeah. Well, it makes kill himself with his performance. I like the idea. It just makes that like the performance just really bad. Like seems like he just wanted to die. I mean that's like always the thing with obviously Logan. I mean that's the great tragedy of Logan's life. The idea of he lives forever. But because he lives forever, he leaves so many people behind, and he just ends up, living beyond all the people he loves and cares about, blah 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 blah. And obviously, in this, it kind of makes sense that he would want to die. And also the fact that he's so lonely. So he's such a loner. But at least he's got his good friends, Professor X and Caliban. I did actually want to bring up another thing about Logan, which is that it was kind of funny to me. He has no interest in helping people, but he's also kind of reluctant to kill people. And I was thinking, like, it's kind of a weird situation where it's like, because there are instances where him killing people could really save people a lot of time. Like the bit when the head, Donald, is knocked out and they have a gun. And, rather than shooting him and burying him, Wolverine says, take him alive out to the middle of nowhere. And whatever, which is kind of like, I don't know. I mean, we could talk about the fact that Caliban is not powerful at all, and therefore maybe Wolverine should have done that, but whatever, fine.
Yeah.
But basically, he could have killed the guy there, and it would have saved loads of effort. There we go. And also, if he would have killed that Rice scientist guy, like I've already said, that could have been a bit helpful. He's a bit, if he killed the bad guys more willingly, especially seeing as, and like I say, one of the things I was thinking of is because obviously, like I've already said, what these people were doing in this company was horrible, like experimenting on children. And, I'm an anti-death penalty guy, but like, I like to think if I was in a post-apocalyptic situation and I knew somebody evil like that, I would, I mean, if you want to find out what it's like to kill a man, you might as well do it in a situation like that,
Oh, this got pretty dark, Michael, I have to say.
When you're dealing with someone, just someone like really evil, you'd be like, yeah, okay, you know what? I mean, you only live once, and then kill him. YOLO. Then hit the dab.
Uh, by the way, Hugh Jackman's performance topped the Hollywood Reporter's greatest superhero movie performances of all time list.
Oh man!
So, there you go.
But were they aware of all the funny faces that Tobey Maguire pulls in his performance of Spider-Man? Did they even take that into consideration?
Yeah, maybe they should really watch Spider-Man 3 and that. Yes, I've seen. Anyway, Patrick Stewart's up next. He is great in this as well. I love it when he swears. Just it sounds so good. But yeah, he's like plays the old bitter. Well, not really bitter. Kind of bitter, I guess.
Yeah.
Who's going senile quite well. You know,
yeah.
It's just, he's really good. Anyway, next up, Laura. That's who's played by Daphne Keane, mysterious young girl who is very much like Logan, and obviously is his daughter. It was obviously quite a smart move, I think, to not have her speak for a great portion of the movie. As we know, child actors aren't the best. But having said that, when she did speak, she was good. So maybe that threat over her, not being so good wasn't really founded in anything apart from stereotypes of child actors. But
well, also you don't have the right dialogue, so that's pretty good.
She does really well. I do believe she is a Mexican Wolverine. Yeah, very much so. Yeah, if anybody can play
I also do.
A Mexican Wolverine little kid, it's her.
Yeah. Now, there's Wolverines who come from both sides of the USA. Because, of course, Wolverine, despite never ever living there, is technically from Canada.
Yeah, that's a good point. It really, she might be in a sequel as well. I read on Wikipedia, but nothing's confirmed. And, definitely, considering how good she was in this movie, that would be expected. Stephen Merchant is Caliban.
Caliban, okay, dude, now you've mentioned him. He should really, live in, the Arctic Circle.
Yes. Well, actually, think about it, the Arctic Circle for, I think, 3 months is just constant.
Oh, yeah, so what he should do, he should be a goose. He should migrate. So, obviously when it's the constant dark, he should live there. And then when it becomes sun, he should go dance F.
Yes. Okay. Boyd Hollybrook as Donald Pierce, the head of security and the leader of the Northern Reapers, who was sent to retrieve Laura. Again, just a standard bad guy. Got that nice southern drawl, so he's got a bit of charisma.
Well, howdy doody.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing really else to say about this guy, really.
No.
And same thing for Richard E. Grant as Dr. Xander Rice, the surgical head of Cranston.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, I guess you could say he was kind of convincingly psychotic with his evilness. So points there.
Standard evil scientist guy. Just a character we've seen over and over again in movies. But I guess, when the movie is mainly about Logan, you don't want your bad guys to be taking center stage really that much. So I can forgive the one-dimensional villains really because it's not really about them. That's it. So do you want to conclude first, Michael?
Okay, I'm going to have to get up. Sorry, okay, you know what? I just want to get up my little ranking thing. Okay, so this film was really good. It was, I guess, a lot of really good things packed into one. It was a nice little drama. It was a character study. It was an action film with not too much action, but the action felt kind of real and gritty. It was a superhero film that challenged a lot of the conventions of superhero films, and it was one wouldn't say it had a heart, but one would say that it definitely had some kind of emotional resonance with the, obviously, in the more upsetting sense, with the nature of what happened to these children, things like that. And obviously, you can feel upset about that, and you can kind of get motivated with this, your hatred for this organization. And then also there is kind of the more cathartic element of Logan's coming to a nice little conclusion of his story, where he decides to be a hero and he decides to save the day. And like you say, it is a really good send-off to a lot of characters. My biggest criticism, I think, of this film is not really of this film. It would be, and this doesn't factor into my rating because of that. Although, actually, I suppose I should say, technically speaking, okay, so as you know, I'm going to say my biggest criticism is that I think this film is let down by the fact that this universe is really incoherent and poorly managed. Now, like I say, this doesn't make that film worse. Having said that, what I will say is I think this film would have been better if there was this fantastic history of films leading up to this. If there were no films establishing this film, I probably would rate it higher. Now, like I say, I'm not going to rate this film lower because of that, but I would rate it higher if it wasn't the case. With that said, the first things first, it's better than Deadpool. The next big film, I think, is Black Panther. And is this film better than Black Panther? And I think that's the question. That's a real big challenge, I think. And I think, honestly, it's okay. So what I want to say right now is yes. The only thing is, I'm not sure exactly how well I could justify that. I think basically, Black Panther.
You don't want to get called a racist.
No, yeah. Well, Black Panther it relies on motivational. What's it called? Sorry, completely messed up. Has a relatable motivation to the villain. That's the main strength of Black Panther. You could say also, I guess, the set design and the costume design is another good thing Black Panther has going for it. In terms of the other stuff in Black Panther, I think you could say Black Panther is slightly more uninspired. This film, I think, is a much better whole than Black Panther. I think it's much better in terms of like everything coming together to form this film that is gritty and emotionally kind of heartfelt and like serious and gets you invested in these characters in a way that I wasn't ready for Black Panther. And honestly, I mean, I guess I even get into questions like, is it better than Iron Man? I think no, because Iron Man was so much fun. But I am going to put it just below Iron Man. And that's where it's going to go. And I think that's pretty appropriate for it. Based on, the emotional experience of watching it, the emotional resonance, and also just the general coherency of it as a solid, gritty, coming of age, not coming of age. What's the opposite of coming of age? When you're so old, coming of death. Yeah, okay, we both said it at the same time. Coming of death superhero film. Anyway, so sorry, Luke, it took me a while to work that out because I hadn't really thought about that as much as I should have before I ranked it. So what do you think, Luke?
I'm not going to factor in the incoherence of the X-Men universe because maybe it's just because I don't care about it as much as you. But yeah, I don't think that. Who was the director again? Adam Marigold, was it?
I think it was Manigold.
Manigold, yeah. I don't think he can be blamed for the past mistakes of previous movies. But anyway, so
for mistakes of movies past.
Yes, that's great. Well done. This movie is grounded. It's got a lot of emotion. It's very depressing, and for a final time, it's gritty. I feel that's what's mentioned a lot. Surprisingly thoughtful superhero film, obviously. Going into it, you wouldn't expect how emotional and thoughtful it is. You have got the typical reluctant superhero storyline, but he at the end, Logan saving a person. He truly is like a hero, like sacrificing himself. It is the best end for a superhero. And again, you could say, well, it's done. The kind of story has been done before, but again, it's executed really, really well. Great performances and a great emotional kick at the end. The action scenes were solid, quite entertaining, and obviously, it's, as we've said, it's so different to other superhero movies, in how stripped down and unconventional it is. I just want to point out a quote from Kyle Smith of the New York Post, who said, "The film recognizes that superhero movies such as last year's forgettable X-Men Apocalypse have become a meaningless spectacle." And I would agree with that. The people behind creating this script and the director clearly were like, yeah, we're going to go in a different direction. And again, they got like $600 million for an R-rated movie. So again, it shows that you take a chance, do something different. And although it is, a familiar character in Logan and Wolverine, and you could say, well, it's not really doing something different. I do support, movies that do this because they're really good. They're like, it's the whole reason why we decided to do this instead of X-Men Apocalypse, because I was just like, X-Men Apocalypse is just going to be fucking boring, by the numbers shit. This is something different, and it is also really, really good, and it is one of the best superhero movies of all time. And you brought it up before with Black Panther and Iron Man. I'm just going to say, well, like I said, it's a top 5 superhero movie of all time. You've got like The Dark Knight, the battle between chaos and order and humanity. What are we really as humans? And Black Panther poses geopolitical questions, about isolationism and explores colonialism. This film doesn't do that. It doesn't pose or answer any big questions, but it is a really good character arc and redemption, and it's done really, really well. This guy has a chance to be a hero one last time, one final hurrah, very grounded, and therefore, because it doesn't pose any big questions, I'm not sure I can put it above Black Panther, but I am still going to give it an 8.5, which I gave the same rating as Black Panther, but I would put Black Panther ahead because the questions it does pose. But still very good. And it's probably third on my list of best superhero movies of all time, behind The Dark Knight and Black Panther.
That's a fair justification for why you placed it, and I can definitely see your logic.
Yes. Predictions though, Michael, for X-Men Apocalypse.
You mean X-Men Dark Phoenix? Yeah.
X-Men Dark Phoenix. What do you think?
I was just going to say,
because you went first last time. I'm going to say it's going to be 76%.
Yeah. I would just say, actually, the one reason, I think I mentioned this when we discussed changing to Logan, and I'd already seen X-Men Apocalypse at that point. My slight hot take is I did think X-Men Apocalypse was rather enjoyable. Nowhere near as good as this, but like a lot of people are saying X-Men Apocalypse was really bad. I just thought it was kind of enjoyable, but that doesn't matter. The important thing is Dark Phoenix. Yeah. So maybe we'll talk about Dark Phoenix at some point. I just want to bring this up. I ended up looking on YouTube, on Wikipedia, and the Dark Phoenix story arc in X-Men is considered, quote unquote, this was, I don't have the exact quote, but on Wikipedia, if you look it up, it's considered the greatest, or one of the greatest story arcs in comic book history. And apparently that's, so the Dark Phoenix storyline is about, I don't know what it's about, but yeah, so it's about this character, and they become dark. And obviously, so that's, I think that's an interesting fact that it's considered the one of the greatest stories in history. Now the question becomes, does that translate to a really good film? I think the X-Men films have generally been getting better. Like I say, I think the worst film since First Class, which was in 2011, the worst film since then has been X-Men Apocalypse, and I think even that was competent and rather enjoyable. It wasn't fantastic, but it was not terrible. With that in mind, I think I'm going to do quite well. I didn't actually pay attention to what you rated it, to be honest. Sorry, what percent? I'm going to go above you. I don't know. We said it has to be within 5, so I'll just say 81. That seems like a lot, but I'll have confidence in them. I'll have faith in this universe. And say 81. Well,
you had faith in Aladdin, Michael. Sorry, I had faith in Aladdin. You didn't. And you got this one closer. So I predicted 73% for Aladdin. You predicted 68% for Aladdin. And it turns out that you were right, or you were closer rather, because it got 56% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is really bad. Think about it. It's a 2-hour, 10-minute movie, Aladdin, but obviously the original was 1 hour 25 or whatever. So they really stretch it out, and it's not really a surprise, I guess, given that it's so bad. So that's basically you winning that. Yes, you're winning 4-3. Well done.
I'm just so fantastic.
Congratulations. You are doing this. And what have we got next week, Michael?
We've got, I should know this. We've got Men in Black 1 and 2.
Yes, we were originally just going to do Men in Black 1, but that wasn't long enough. So we're doing Men in Black 1 and 2 because of the Men in Black spin-off.
Men in Black International. I think it's called.
International. But one of them is a woman, so how can it be Men in Black?
Yeah, that's true, yeah. Maybe it's, Women in Black. Well, anyway, yeah.
Yeah, we'll see about that next week. So who have you been, Michael?
I've been Michael.
And I've been Luke. Thank you for listening. We've been selecting and reflecting on X-Men. Sorry, no, just Logan because of X-Men Dark Phoenix. Join us next week for Men in Black. Goodbye.
Goodbye.